Hi everyone, my name is Everin, otherwise known as Flaming Guardian or Cosmic Chaos, depending on which account you're coming from. Before we start the video, I just want to give a very quick trigger warning for various mentions of different types of abuse, such as child abuse, manipulation, emotional, physical, all of that stuff. If you are sensitive to that stuff, I suggest you click away, as this is going to contain various audio recordings of such types of abuse. So for those of you who don't know, I am the victim of about 2 decades worth of abuse from various people. When I was 5, my mother married my first stepfather, and he was extremely physically abusive, both to me and my mother. When I was 9, I was removed from my mother and placed with my grandmother. She spent 3 years torturing me and my 2 little brothers. My step-grandfather was complicit to her abuse and even essayed me multiple times from the ages of 10 to 12. When I was 12, I was removed from my grandparents and placed with a foster family who didn't necessarily abuse me on the level that I was used to. However, there was a lot of neglect and favoritism towards their biological children. Basically, my foster siblings and I were just cash for them and their family. When I was 14, I reconnected with my mother on Facebook and spent about a year fighting to be back with her. This would later prove to be a mistake. June of 2014, I was removed from my foster family and given to my biological mother and her fiancé at that time. That summer, I was the victim of abuse by my mother's fiancé and grooming by both of them. My mother's fiancé continued to harass me, and even once again in 2017. My mother didn't do anything about it, and it was not reported to the police. Ow! I was placed in therapy, and I talked to 3 therapists in the span of 3 months. I later on spoke to the school therapist, and at that point I had given up on therapy. During my final years of high school, my mother continued to call me abusive for various things, such as not doing my responsibilities, not doing homework, and having an attitude, even though I was very much a people pleaser and was not getting the mental health help that I so desperately needed. In my final year of high school, I reconnected with my biological father, and I met him the day before I graduated. However, he and I have fallen out of contact over the years due to various circumstances. My mother's fiancé continued to harass me into my early 20s when he finally gave up. However, I later found out this was because he set his sights on my younger sibling, but that is not a story I'm here to tell right now. I was kicked out of my mother's house twice, once when I was 19 and once when I was either 20 or 21. In November of 2021, I moved back in with my parents due to the pandemic and my lack of funds. The end goal was for me to save up enough to eventually move out. By autumn of 2022, things escalated so badly that I started secretly recording as much as I could remember to. January 14th, I finally fled. This series is going to feature those recordings. However, I've put a voice changer over all the audio and censored out all names, so my mother cannot go after me for harassment. All audios and clips will include closed captions for my hearing impaired audience, and to be honest, some of the recordings are a little hard to hear. I'll also be including context for each of the recordings. A lot of the audios are hours long, so I've taken the most important clips and put them in these videos. And what better way to end this introduction video than with my mother's own words on how to identify an abuser.
If somebody can act the way they're supposed to everywhere else except with you alone, that's an abuser.